So welcome to the Cotton and Rice Conference. It's been a good conference so far. Now we get to sit down and sit in the classroom and maybe do a little studying, maybe do a little bit of education. And before I start, I'd just like to say this has been a great conference for me, year in and year out. And hope we can all learn something from this and go forward. So my name's Greg Baltz. I farm in Pocahontas, Arkansas, just about 90 miles northwest of here. We grow rice, corn, soybeans, and peanuts. If someone can close the door.
Try closing it, it doesn't close.
It doesn't close, okay. So we grow rice, corn, soybean, peanuts. Rice is by far our biggest crop with about half our acres, about 2,500 acres of rice, year in and year out. I've been presenting at this conference now for 6 years, and we're going to try to do something a little different this year. So to start, we're here to talk about conservation, sustainability, no-till, cover crops, irrigation, everything that has to do with conservation on our farms. But what's on our mind mostly today, especially on mine, is profitability, just the survivability of our operations. We're interested in open markets, frustrated with government interference. You know, we need this government safety net that we have. We need it to be working for us. We also see government overreach, but also we see our own legacies being questioned here, whether we're able to sustain our operations and carry something forward to the next generation. So within this conference, there will be several answers available to all of you, so I hope you'll stay engaged throughout the day and all day tomorrow. Try to attend as many sessions as you can, because there are answers out there, and we have them in this group. So what can we do to balance the demands for conservation against our own goals to survive? So with a show of hand, who in this room has reduced their tillage from 20 years ago? Even 10 years ago, have you reduced the amount of tillage you do on your farm?
Yes.
So now who in this room, get my thoughts straight here, who in this room can get their rice ground ready to plant with just a couple passes with a Kelly tool or some very light tillage? That's all it takes to get your rice ready. Who knew what a Kelly tool was 10 years ago? Anybody knew what a Kelly tool was? I'm not speaking for Kelly. I hadn't even talked to him out there yet today, but it's a tremendous tool. Just able to work your stubble down, to be able to do very light tillage and total minimal effect on the soil conditions. So it's a great tool, and it's only been around a few years in our part of the world. So who now is ready to plant their rice? Who has their rice ground ready to go take the drill to the field and get it started? I think it's a great opportunity many of us have. So I submit that we are all adapters of conservation practices. We come to this conference and others like it not because we're forced to change our ways, but because we want to learn the latest techniques from the scientists and the other early adopters. Our goals are to improve our soils, to grow healthier crops, to reduce cost, and most importantly, we're here to sustain our livelihood. We know that if we sit still, we fail. We must advance our operations because the combination of today's ag economy, today's yields, and today's markets will not sustain us. I'm here to share some of my techniques, many of which have been developed right here from speakers at this conference. And I offer them as knowledge, but know that each of you have different environments, different situations, and different challenges. Some things that I'll talk about are going to be very common on your farm, but maybe a few will be a bit unconventional. So in the past conferences, I know I've seen many familiar faces. In the past conferences, I've talked about my cross-flow rice drying system, where we take harvested rice at 18 to 20% moisture, dry it down to 12.5% in just a matter of 2 or 3 days, and then put it safely into storage. It's an interesting technique we use. It's been very successful for us for 8 years now. And if anybody's interested in knowing more about that, please feel free to contact me after the program. I'd love to talk about a rice drying. It works very well for us. But this year I'm going to speak on other progressive techniques, and I hope that I can share a little light on some of the things that work well on our farm. So most people speak of irrigation as the most critical practice they face on the farm. But I contend that early on, my greatest yield dropping issues were with the drainage, especially with the rice-soybean rotation. Stuart, if you'll, that's fine, we're good there. Go back up one. Just quickly, a quick pilot's view of our farm. You see the final drainage out of a 2,000 acre watershed all on our farm, and we do our best to try to keep the drainage open, keep it clear, and tremendous amount of work goes into maintaining drainage on our farm, not only through the canals and ditches, but also drainage within the fields. So until you get the drainage right, your land will never reach its full potential. So in our area, all these fields are precision leveled, and they've been so for over 20 years. But drainage every year is another issue. Every year we face the constant battle of keeping the water clear off of our fields. We never go into the field to do any tillage without following it up with the drainage of the fields. Excessive passes also with a disc or a land plane, working in wet conditions, overlaps, turning with your implements in the ground. These are all enemies of precision leveled fields. And my crew knows full well how interested and how determined we are to make sure that land, once it's leveled, stays leveled. But precision leveling was only the first step. We're now into precision farming. And wherever you are in the mass scramble of all the precision farming tools available, my advice is simply to challenge yourself to adopt at least one or two new precision farming techniques every year. Because to convert overnight to precision farming is impossible, and the learning curve is extremely steep. We all who try to adopt something new know how technologically challenged we can be when something new doesn't just fall into place. When my computer wouldn't connect up to the camera there, to the display, it was a little frustrating. You do it at home, everything works, but you come to a new site and it doesn't work. So anyway, learn new techniques, learn new precision farming, and try not to give up on it, because we're all headed that way sooner or later. Techniques such as obviously RTK guidance, auto steering, the use of variable rate technology. We variable rate almost everything, almost anything is possible. Row repeatability, all terms that we hear. Overlap elimination. We now have product application reports. Everything that we do on our farm, we record and log that data. Soil maps are available, even tillage maps of what we accomplish on the field. So with all this meaningful data, now we can create better crop plans, we can anticipate our needs, and write useful prescriptions. We now have the vast knowledge of our soil's capacity, and Mother Nature's droughts and floods have been somewhat mitigated, although I know she's still in charge. She still throws us a curve every year. So let's talk about our operation on our soil, our heavy soils where we grow rice. We always have exceptions, but our general rule is try to develop a rice-soybean rotation. We'll get two rice crops in every 3 years. So we'll start behind the soybean operation at harvest. Our goal there is to make sure that the combines are spreading that stubble. The choppers and the spreaders out there, that stubble has to be spread the full width of our 30-foot flex headers and beans. The soybeans are also on 30-inch beds, so hopefully just right behind the combine, if the weather allows, we'll go in and run a light tillage tool, either run the light discs or a field cultivator, again followed by the Kelly tool, and that's all that's needed to have our ground prepared for a no-till operation next spring, or a stale seedbed next spring. In the spring, a burn down early followed by command right behind the air drill. That sets our rice up for a nice clean start. And generally the first rice behind soybeans is going to be a conventional hybrid, which allows us to effectively use a Clearfield hybrid the second year of rice. So as we prepare to harvest that first rice crop, our plans are well underway for the Clearfield next year. The timing of the drainage of the fields is crucial to achieve not only the highest yields, but also the ability to harvest on solid ground. We place a tremendous focus on preserving the tilth of the ground behind this first rice crop. It's the most critical. When we're harvesting, we have rice, we have Clearfield rice that's in the second year rotation, and we're not near as worried about keeping that ground in pristine condition as we are this rice that will be followed back up with no-till rice. So with good drainage measures within our fields and with a little help from the weather, we're often able to set the fields up for no-till the second year of rice. We have several options depending on the weather, but our goals are to preserve the soil condition. Sometimes, and most times, especially this year, the Kelly tool with a quick stubble burn was all that was needed to get the ground ready for no-till next year. Sometimes we require only light incorporation of the stubble, and sometimes, and in many fields, if you'll click a slide or two there, I think I'm a couple behind. We're able to flood it up, and this is where I'd like to have been this morning. Right there in front is where my pit lies, but many times we're able to just go in and put a winter flood on it in a good duck population, so we're able to keep a population of ducks there through the winter. We'll drain that ground. That field this year is ready to drain about the end of February, and by the 1st of April, all we'll have to do is go in and no-till it. You don't see a lot of stubble in the foreground. There is some stubble in the background, but there's nothing been done to that field from the combines. So these practices are not only cost savings, but they're the key to allow us to early planting in the spring. We achieve an early stand with less tillage, less labor, less soil erosion, and higher yields. And we know that working the ground into a dug bust like we used to do is not necessary for an ideal rice crop, but timely planting of course is. So the second year behind our Clearfield rice crop is when we try to go in with a little extra tillage if necessary to correct any soil issues and prepare our ground for the next 3-year rotation. So the adoption of early precision farming tools has allowed us to implement many of these conservation practices. As the technology and sciences have advanced, now we're able, on every tractor, if you'll click a slide, on every tractor, on every combine, on every sprayer, everyone that goes to the field, the boundaries are already set into the guidance. The boundaries and guidance are set, the swath, the headings are all pre-programmed into the monitor on the tractor. We've now added in-furrow fertilizer, and I don't have any slides here, but we've added in-furrow fertilizer and seed starters to our rice drill, as well as to our soybean, corn, and peanut planters. Now every operator receives a task every morning on his smartphone, a task that I set up every night. He receives a task on his smartphone telling him exactly what jobs he has to do that day. Every morning my grain drill operator has a message saying the names of the fields he has to plant, and the app shows the maps of the fields with directions if needed from his current location. The message lets the So the message on his app tells him about the hybrid, and now he has the information at his fingertips, and is generally so he has the message on his cell phone. It's at his fingertips all day, ignoring what jobs he has to do that day, exactly what hybrids to plant, and exactly what rate to plant it at. Also, our 42-inch air drill takes a 42-foot swath And it does that every pass through the field all the way, planting the prescribed rates of seed. And now the guidance runs the rice levees perfectly straight on an exact heading and at an exact interval that matches the 30-foot draper headers at harvest. Again, a full swath on every pass allows for a very efficient operation. And there again, you can see those combines have run straight, RTK guidance on every piece of equipment we have. He's cutting the levee here on the left, but that levee is all, that guidance is all pre-programmed into his combines. And the next swath through, again, will be a perfect pass for both machines. So now the operators are more focused on the job at hand, and the data is automatically logged into our records and further analyzed. So our newest innovation has been the incorporation, and I highlighted it earlier just for a minute. It's been the incorporation of this farm management tool called Granular. I don't speak for that company. I think there's some guys here that can talk to you, and I'll introduce them in a minute. But I don't speak for them, but I do know that it provides us with some efficiencies and some technologies as well as financial analysis that we've never had before. Their web-based program allows us to build a complete crop plan for our farm and then implement it daily and be able to send these tasks out to our operators. Every morning, my grain drill operator, again, knows exactly what he has in mind, what I have in mind for him to do. So all this technology allows us to be more efficient, and it also, excuse me, I'll turn it off. Again, technology, it's a great tool if you know how to use it, and I don't sometimes. So anyway, this technology is at their fingertips, and it's been great to add efficiencies to our operation, but it has also allowed our crew to feel like they have more participation in our operation, and it's been very helpful for them. They've enjoyed being able to take on some of this technology. This granular program, it is robust, so every task in every field is logged into the system. The applied rates of seed, fertilizer, and chemical, as well as all the harvest yields, are all logged in. We know all that data. And now the costs are recorded as well. So the aspect this program gives to me at the end of the day is for every field, on any crop, on any farm, I can quickly go in and analyze the income and expenses. And I know exactly today where our 2015 profits and losses occurred. So in spite of today's economy, these are indeed exciting times in agriculture if you want to tackle the new toys. But the technology has given us cost-saving opportunities for conservation. We could not do the task in these fields or eliminate the task that we've eliminated without the technology that's on our phones and in our tractors. Unfortunately, the ag economy limits the ability that we can go in and purchase all this technology. But again, I ask each of you to consider the opportunity to grab the technology, go out there and find what works for you, and at the end of the day, I think that's the way farming will be operating 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road. So what I've found more than anything, now that we have data at our fingertips, is that as our profit center, as we look for our profit centers, as we look for our areas where we can get a return on our investment, those most often lie in the same fields where we're able to achieve these conservation practices. So if there are any questions, if we could skip forward a couple slides there. Apologize, I wish I had a couple more. One more. There's our rice. All our rice is stored right there in one location. It's all safely dried. It's all put away. We had a great crop this year, and if we can just get Milo and a few others to tell us how we're going to be able to make a profit on it, we'll be in good shape. So it's a great time to be in farming. We just have to learn how to weather this storm. Any questions? Yes?
You say you got some of it for duck hunting. Do you have any problems with potholes that the ducks make whenever you...
The potholes are when I try to roll down the stubble when I don't need to be rolling down the stubble. No, the ducks, and especially the geese by February. After our duck season, we'll actually let that water down very, very low, and the geese will come in and actually fertilize the ground. They'll be in there, and we try not to bother them too much, and they'll actually allow that. It'll actually allow that straw to decay quite well, and we keep the drainage. We'll go in there and reset our drainage at the end of the wet season, and we'll be ready to no-till next spring. Other questions? Yes.
What kind of infertile fertilizer are you running at planting?
On our rice and our corn, we're using a product from United Suppliers called OptiStart Gold. It's a 9-18-6, I think is what it is. It's an orthophosphate. It has a veil in it, so all that phosphate should be readily available for the seed. The yield advantages are there, or the ability to be profitable. That product is there, but it's hard to tell. All across the field, our stands come up so much more even, so much greener. And if we get a wet spell right when the rice comes up and we can't get fertilizer on it, that in-furrow fertilizer treatment does a tremendous job to hold that plant, keep it growing, keep it viable until we can put a flush or a flood on the rice. But it's a low salt orthophosphate starter fertilizer works well. So on John Deere grain drill, when we bought the drill, we went in and added our own in-furrow treatment right in the row on 68 rows.